So today I'll be trying to get the RPM sensor hooked up. I've just cut off the Hall effect sensor that was on here because I'll be running this off the one that's a part of the engine already and trying to get the readout off the ignition unit because that has a tacho out. I don't believe I'll need the positive, pretty sure I'll just need the negative and the signal, and that will give the pulse, the square wave, to the telemetry device here, which will send it to the transmitter via the receiver. This is what I'll be soldering this to. I'll solder them all up, including the red one, even though I might not need it, and I'll be testing it first, unplugging the red from the plug just here, and then plugging it in, seeing if it works. If it doesn't, I'll get the multimeter and have a test at what the positives are actually doing. From my knowledge, I won't need the positive hooked up. I'm pretty sure the positive one here is the positive out to induce the current through the Hall effect sensor so you can get a signal through it. Also, I've got the UBIC here with the power, and I'll just be temporarily soldering these up as well so I can get started mounting the UBIC in place and seeing where it's going to go before I permanently do anything. Unfortunately, I forgot the heat shrink today, so I won't be able to put any heat shrink on here. However, once I get back to the shed, I'll put a few layers of tape over there. Eventually I'll be replacing this connector with an XT60 connector. Right now I'm running that XT60 to MPX 6-pin adapter. I'll keep the switch for now. Eventually this will probably change, so I'll just probably desolder it here and put a new switch in. So let's get into this. Bit of an abortion, but would have been better if I had a clamp to hold everything still and not a plate. Aside from that, it'll work for test purposes. May as well go test it. So here I'm in the shed, get this down and plug everything in. This is the XT60 connector to MPX 6-pin. Plug that to the battery, use that. So let's ensure it's working. So these two are just telling me that the battery is low, and that's telling me it's on. And the power's there, and then I can switch it on with this, and then that light tells me that there's power at this output. So it works, but the battery's so low that it didn't work. So I'll just plug in temporarily another battery, plug this battery into the receiver, and I've got another battery for the ignition to put the power to the Hall effect sensor. Alrighty, have that there. RPM signal out will be plugged into my mod. I actually got to first of all undo the red. Okay, got the red out of the way. And so we'll plug this in to the ignition unit. That's signal and negative. This plugs into the receiver. And we also need to plug in power. First unplug our optical sensor for now. Plug in our power. So that's power on to the ignition unit. And there we go. Showing 0 RPM. When I bring this magnet past the Hall effect sensor, we should then get an RPM. Okay, now let's do it a bit faster. Unless we are just going too slow, or this battery's flat. Although, if I unplug this, I'll plug this into the receiver and see if this battery's just flat. Flat. Let's test this. It does say it's got 12 volts in it, so try again. Should be able to plug this one into here. Positive, negative. That should give you power to this. Now, fingers crossed.
It still wasn't working, so I'm unplugging it all, and I'm plugging the telemetry sensor directly into the Hall effect sensor instead of going through the ignition unit. However, before I do this, I had to plug the positive back into the plug on the telemetry sensor. Now that the positive is hooked back up, it's time to plug it all in and test it. And straight away, we had an RPM on our controller.
I kind of want to run it off this, but if I can't get this to work, I'll just Y connect to this, and then as you saw there, we just got RPM, so that'll have to work if I can't get it to work. I'll just try it quickly with that positive in. I don't want to have it plugged in for too long, so we'll plug. No, I don't want to plug that into there. Plug that into here. This over here. I might have had it backwards. I'll unplug the red again and try that both ways. So we'll go white is signal, black is negative. Hey! I had it backwards. So our Hall effect sensor into the ignition unit, and then the ignition unit has power to it, so the Hall effect sensor automatically gets power, and then this outputs the signal through these three, and I only need the signal, I don't need the power, so unplug the power, and then white was my signal and black was my earth, which came through the sensor, which then runs into the sensor line of the receiver. And I just ended up plugging that straight into the receiver. It was playing up. I was only getting 2 volts apparently. I'm going to play around with that now. Well, the little experiment worked, and it worked as I thought it would. Now just to solder them up properly, get everything set up, and then now that I know it works, I can start the layout of where all the electronics are going to go on the aircraft. So I'm just going to have a play with that receiver and the S-bus expansion, see why it was not working the UBEC, and once I sort that out, I'll pack up here and put everything away. I feel like I'm a complete idiot. I plugged it in backwards. It's 2 things backwards today. Thank you for watching. Like this video if you do, subscribe if you haven't, and leave a comment below letting me know what you think. See you in the next one.